everybody. It's April Perry and Jonathan Bailor back with another episode of the SANE Show. I hope you're excited today. Are you ready, Jonathan?
I'm ready. I'm excited. I'm back from some time away with my wife to celebrate our 10-year anniversary. I'm refreshed and super sane.
Awesome. Yeah, same here. We'll actually probably need to talk a little bit about how we stayed sane on our vacations, because I know we talked about a little in the past, but I love hearing updates, specifics, because I feel like that's what people need and love. And today we're going to go into our mailbag, which I always was so excited when I was little and I'd be watching, I don't know, one of my little preschool shows. They do a mailbag and they'd read real letters from real people. So fun. And so that's what we're doing today. Real letters from real people who want Jonathan Bailor to answer their questions. Okay, so we're going to start talking about insane treats. I think that's actually a fun place to start. And I love this question. Actually, I thought it was kind of funny at first, but then I thought, I wonder how Jonathan will answer this. Okay, if I'm going to splurge on an insane treat, is it better for my body and blood sugar levels, etc., to have a big splurge, like 5 cookies from the batch, or to have a little splurge, like 1 cookie, but every day for 5 days? Okay, what do you think?
I like to put my answers in 2 different buckets. So bucket 1 is there have been peer-reviewed studies on this, and I'm going to share that data. Okay. And then bucket 2 is there haven't been, but based on my experience, this is an educated hypothesis. So the answer to this question is definitely going to be an educated hypothesis, because there has never been rigorous science done on like concentrated sort of splurging versus spaced out splurging. And because of that, there's actually challenges to both. I don't know if one's better than the other. What I can tell you is the downsides of each, and then maybe we could decide together which one's better.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about downsides of each.
Okay. So the downside of each is a large spike in blood sugar is actually potentially very harmful. In fact, when you are getting tested for diabetes or pre-diabetes, your doctor will do a sort of supra maximal blood sugar test, which essentially amounts to giving you a bunch of grape juice, which most people just eat casually. And then they observe what happens to your blood sugar. But what I want to draw everyone's attention to is when they do this, they actually watch and make you stay in the doctor's office, because there may be unintended consequences. Like you may faint and you may pass out because your blood sugar may get too high. Okay. So knowing that taking in 100 grams of sugar can actually require medical supervision in certain contexts, that's probably not the best thing to do. At the same time,
okay. I'm thinking most people have eaten tons of donuts and cookies and stuff, and they're like, I'm okay. But all right, keep going.
I'm just telling you what doctors do when they're testing your blood sugar. So
no, it's good. All right.
So the second thing would be the little splurges. Little splurges are definitely very troublesome from a never. My gut says the little splurges consistently would be worse, because what's happening is you're never giving your body any chance to heal. Let me give you a kind of a weird example, but imagine you have a cut on your hand and you totally leave it alone and let the scab form for 6 days. And then on the 7th day, you totally rip it off, which I know sounds gross and I'm sorry, but over those 6 days, some of your skin will really actually heal. Now, if you just every day, pick at the scab, it might get infected, bad stuff's going to happen because you never leave it alone. So my gut tells me that like going bonkers once and then giving your body time to heal is going to be better than just continuing to poke at it over and over and over.
Well, that reminds me of what my mom always said when I was eating Halloween candy. She goes, I talked to the dentist and he said it's better for you to just eat a lot of candy once and brush your teeth and then eating candy every single day, where you're more likely to get cavities. But here's a question I often hear, or a situation I've often heard. Some people eat really healthfully Monday through Friday because they're in a really great routine, going to work or taking kids to school or whatever it is. And then on the weekends, they just lose it. I mean, I had one friend who honestly would lose 5 pounds during the week and then gain 5 pounds over the weekend. So what do you say about things like weekend splurges? Is that something? A lot of different diets will say things like have one cheat day every week where you can just eat anything you want as much as you want. So, I mean, what would you say about that?
That is why diets don't work. So for me personally,
That's why we're talking about SANE.
Yeah, so any lifestyle decision that you feel you need to cheat on is not a good lifestyle decision, right? So if you pick a spouse that you're like, wow, I really wish I could cheat on my spouse once a week, it's probably not the right spouse for you. And if you have a diet that makes you feel crazy until you break with what it's telling you to do, that's not going to be a good long-term strategy for you. And if that sounds like Jonathan's crazy talk, vegetarians aren't like, oh, on Sunday, I am just going to butcher a pig and eat the whole thing. Like, they have no desire. It's a lifestyle choice. They don't want to cheat. So if you're on a restrictive calorie counting diet, you'll absolutely want to cheat because that's an unhealthy way to live. But if you're eating SANE sweets and those types of things, there is no cheating, there is no splurging because the treats are actually good for you.
Okay, and I'm so glad you said that. I think that's why I kind of laughed when I read their question, because I thought, I don't feel that anymore. I don't feel a need to just go eat 5 cookies. I can make some coconut flour cookies with the xylitol that I really like. And, and I get it when someone's maybe just starting to go SANE and maybe it's a transition. I totally get it, but I really appreciate you saying that. Okay, ready for question number 2?
Question number 2.
SANE body. It's about SANE body. It says, I know there isn't a set SANE body because we did podcasts about that before. I wanted to know, what should a SANE arm look like, right? What are SANE abs? Okay. But she says there's many variables. So what's this range? And then I love the question. I mean, I doubt a man who ate sanely would ever have a 40-inch waist, right? Okay, so what would you say? Is there kind of like a spectrum we should be shooting for? Because also I remember asking you about body fat percentages. And so we talked about, about like low 20s maybe for a woman, things like that. But if I'm not measuring body fat and just measuring my waist, I mean, I think that's the main question that I get from everybody is, how do I know if I'm doing SANE right? If it's not about pounds and if my body is different than somebody else's body, then how do I ever know if I've got it?
Waist circumference is a decent thing to measure, but body fat percentage is really the preferred way to measure because there are scientifically demonstrated healthy levels of body fat that we can definitely achieve through SANE eating, and they vary by gender and they vary by age. So we can go through that very specifically if you'd like, because this is just pure science.
Okay.
All right. So for females, an average, so to be average, which to be clear, this is average/healthy, not average in the United States, because to be average in the United States is actually to be significantly overweight, since 2/3 of our population is overweight, right? So the average is overweight. But so this is healthy average. So healthy average for a female, which would actually make you quite fit relative to most Americans, would be between 25 and 31% body fat.
Okay, great. That's helpful.
And then to be what would be considered fit. So these are individuals who, if you saw them in a bikini, let's say, you'd probably turn your head and say, wow, wow. Right. Yeah. These aren't the people that if you saw on stage at a bodybuilding competition, that's a different thing. These are just like, they were in a 2-piece bathing suit and you're like, okay, wow, that person's, that's going to be around 21 to 24% body fat for a female.
Okay.
Anything below that, you're looking at, those are fitness professionals. People.
Right. That's what they do for a living.
It's a full-time job to drop below 20% body fat for a woman.
Okay.
And you're going to want to adjust those numbers about 1% or 2% up per decade of age, starting in your 20s. So all the numbers I just said. So if you're taking notes while you're reading or watching this,
and you're old, I'm getting old. Okay.
Yeah. So for example, having 23% body fat when you're 40 years old for a woman would probably make you slimmer than 99% of your 40-year-old peers.
Okay. Okay.
But having 23% body fat when you're 18, you wouldn't be, fitter than 99% of your 18-year-old peers.
This actually is really helpful. I know we talked a little bit about this in the past, but for me, just thinking, all right, it helps me know kind of where I am and feel so much better about it as I'm getting older too. I think that that's something that I was talking to a friend the other day, and I said, okay, I'm almost 40. I have 4 kids. Why do I expect myself to look like my 18-year-old niece? Like, why would I do that to myself? So it's helpful for women. Do you have men's numbers just in case?
I do.
Okay.
I do have men's numbers. And so for a man to be average from a healthy perspective, not from a standard American perspective, he would have between 18 and 24% body fat, because
Okay.
and men are going to be right. They don't have breasts, they don't have other things, so on and so forth. To be fit, so the gentleman you see at the beach and you say, all right, respect. he's he's going to be at about
checking out other guys at the beach, Jonathan. Okay, keep going.
He's going to have about 14 to 17% body fat. And the same thing applies where, for example, a 20-year-old that has, abs and so on and so forth, male, is probably going to be at about 9 or 10% body fat. And that's going to put him in the top 1% of his age category. But if you're a 50-year-old man and you have 19% body fat, you're still going to look lean, and you're probably going to be fitter than 99% of your 50-year-old friends.
Okay. All right. Awesome. So I think that's given us a really good framework to work from. Question number 3. You ready?
Let's try 3 for 3.
Okay, this is nursing moms, which I know you love talking about nursing because you have so much experience with this, Jonathan. But okay, here's a very valid question. My fear of losing my milk supply is holding me back from letting go of all grains. I feel like my milk supply is affected after I have a couple really low carb days in a row. Any ideas?
I love how this question is phrased, because it's unfortunately, this individual is painting themselves into a corner. And I think we could take them out of that corner really, really easily. They're saying that if I let go of all grains, I'm having a problem. So therefore, like I have to get my carbohydrate intake up. I have to eat more grains. You can get your carbohydrate intake up without ever eating a grain, right? Sweet potatoes are not a grain, and they're one of the saner starch sources. And if you're an athlete, or if you're a child, or if you're a nursing mother, these sort of sane root vegetable starches are great options if you need that increased caloric intake. So like, I would say eat 1 or 2 sweet potatoes per day as needed. You don't need grains. And just as another way to think about it, human beings didn't eat grains prior to agriculture, which seems like it happened a long time ago, but it happened 12,000 years ago, and people lived for a long time before 12,000 years ago, and mothers successfully nursed babies before then. So it's okay for us to do that as well now.
Okay, great answer. Now we're going to talk about probiotics, all right? And I don't know much about probiotics, so I'm actually excited to talk to you about this. As I've been wondering about these probiotics and other fermented foods, should I be making an extra effort to be eating more good bacteria, or will I naturally get enough living a sane lifestyle? So they're optimal sources. Right now, I'm just thinking plain yogurt. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
It is very important, and it is hard to get an optimal amount without making a conscious effort. There's quite a few things, for example, like even omega-3 fats. These are, or like short chain fats that you find in coconut. These are things which it's hard to just eat enough of unless you really put conscious effort into it. Probiotics fall in this category as well.
Okay.
So there are, here's an example, prebiotic fiber, which is really great for gut health. The only real source to find decent concentrations of those in nature are Jerusalem artichokes. So unless you've got a Jerusalem artichoke stand next to your house, it's going to be kind of hard. So, for example, we when we make our SANE meal bars, we actually the primary source of bulk that makes them, there's whey protein, and then we put prebiotic fiber in them because we know it's hard to get from your local grocery store. So yes, fermented foods are a great option. Good probiotic supplements are a good option. Things like coconut, where you're getting prebiotics, like saying superfoods that provide prebiotics are a great option. And if you're going to do yogurts, that can work, but please make sure they don't have a bunch of added sugar in them, because that's dairy can quickly, like Activia, super healthy, and then you turn it over and it's like 20 grams of sugar. What? So be careful with that.
The benefit of the probiotics would be way less than the harm that the sugar would do for you.
Exactly right. Just like you wouldn't want to take a probiotic pill and just break it open into a can of Coca-Cola and be like, boom, good source of probiotics.
Okay, awesome. All right, now we're talking about hormone nausea. Now, I had never heard about this lately, but this is someone who said I played around with SANE starting in September, started upping my game about 3 months ago. I love this part. Okay, please try to listen with medical ears, Jonathan. So it says during mid-cycle, the last 3 months only, I've gotten more nauseated. And right before my cycle, I'm getting really nauseated, like the last 3 months. This is new, didn't happen before 3 months ago. Is it normal? Is this related to SANE even? I mean, it could be something else, but what's going on with my hormones? And 35, not in menopause, like if you're just feeling this nausea, does that have anything to do with SANE, and especially for a woman?
I don't know.
Did I leave
Based
you
on
speechless? Did I
so
leave?
what I'm like based because I mean the data we have, April, because I don't ever want to do a disservice for someone, right? Like our bodies are very sensitive, they're very customized. So if the data we have is I'm playing around with SANE and I'm upping my game, to be honest, I have no idea what that means.
Yeah. Does that mean more vegetables? I don't know, right?
Right. So I have no idea. However, in all the research I've done and in all the people I've worked with, while I have seen, for example, as you increase vegetable and protein and fiber intake, if you do that too quickly, that can cause, for example, potentially gas. I've never seen it cause nausea related to a menstrual cycle.
Yeah. Okay. No, I think it's good to be able to, I think, ask the questions. And when you don't have a specific answer, we don't have enough information, then I think that that's great. So, okay. Thank you. All right. Intermittent fasting. People have been reading a lot of these benefits of intermittent fasting. Wants to hear Jonathan's opinion.
There are benefits to intermittent fasting.
Okay, so what is how intermittent? What are we talking about?
Yeah, no, so there's benefits to intermittent fasting. There's benefits to almost anything. There's benefits to running marathons. There are benefits to running marathons. There's benefits to ultimate fighting. It's a great cardiovascular workout. The question is always, do the benefits merit the costs? So intermittent fasting has been used for years, I mean, centuries, right? It's part of religious traditions, and there are positive aspects to it. Unless you are, I would consider, a super advanced individual, I would not even think about this. Your lack of intermittent fasting is not causing your struggles. And in fact, if you're like 99% of the population, intermittent fasting is a euphemism for starvation dieting. So it's a way to politely say, just eat less food. And it actually makes going sane harder, because if our primary goal with sane eating is to eat, let's say 10 servings of vegetables per day, and you only have 4 hours to eat because you're intermittent fasting 20 hours a day,
squeeze in
you can't eat those vegetables. Right. And if you're trying to build lean muscle tissue, so again, some things are good for one thing and not good for another thing. Intermittent fasting is unambiguously bad for building lean muscle tissue and athletic performance. No Olympic athlete is not eating for 16 hours, right? So you got to look at what your goals are as well.
Okay. Awesome. All right. Now, we usually don't talk about like specific brands or things like this on the podcast, but I think this is a really important one. What is in Shakeology drinks? Why is this not a great long-term solution? I'm amazed at how many ladies I know who are doing this. They're having success, but at what cost? Pocketbook, overall health. I love not having to purchase anything extra, although SANE products are great, and knowing I can always maintain the standard of living as long as there's a grocery store nearby. So, Shakeology, I looked into it a little bit, where you can buy these shakes. They're supposed to be really good for you. You kind of pay a certain amount of money every month and they send them to you. Thoughts?
So the reason you've heard about Shakeology is because Shakeology is owned by Beachbody, which is also the company that puts out Insanity, Tony Horton stuff. They are one of the only multi-billion-dollar fitness companies in the world. That's not a criticism. In fact, kudos to them for the ability to do that.
Yeah.
But the reason you've heard of Shakeology is not necessarily because it's the best shake in the world. Just like, I don't know if Britney Spears is the most talented vocalist in the world, but she has a huge marketing department behind her. Shakeology is in some ways the Britney Spears of nutrition shakes.
We'll put you on that.
So Shakeology, I mean, it does have, there are certainly Shakeology is 100 times better for you than Slim Fast. Or even if I love Costco, but if you go to Costco and you look at their weight loss drink, I think the first ingredient is sugar. So Shakeology is way better than a lot of these sort of common get them at your grocery store weight loss drinks. It's not a great long-term solution because it's not food. It's processed stuff. Yeah. So if you want to drink shakes, I would strongly recommend, blending in bulk, as we've talked about a lot. And Shakeology is extremely expensive. So it's not going to have all the satiating vitamins and minerals in their natural form that you need. Is it better for you than Slim Fast? Absolutely. Is it the best thing for you? No.
Okay, awesome. All right, next question. How to work in SANE baked goods in the sanest lifestyle possible. Okay, asking questions about coconut flour, what psyllium husks. I mean, talking about almond flour versus coconut flour, which one's better? How about gelatin? What about tapioca flour? I'm just throwing a whole bunch of ingredients at you. Let's talk. Tell me your favorite ingredients.
From a sane metabolic healing gut health perspective, coconut flour is the best flour in the world. Now, so that's great. Coconut flour is also one of the hardest flours to cook with. Yeah. Because when you think of how close is it to wheat flour, all bleached almond flour is much more similar to wheat flour than is coconut flour. Coconut flour, totally different consistency. The absorbency, you use much less, but it is the best for you without question. Psyllium husk is it's basically pure fiber, and it's a way to add bulk. Usually people blend it with other things.
Do you recommend that?
Yes, psyllium husk is same.
Okay.
It's just pure fiber. So okay. It's sort of tasteless fiber.
Yeah. So, no, I have some, but I was like, should I even try it? Does it matter? I mean, if I did it or didn't do it, do you feel like it's a big benefit? Like, yes, I would recommend you do this every morning.
Well, the three things that make something sane, we talk about satiety, aggression, nutrition, and efficiency, but the common denominator is water, fiber, and protein. So if something is natural, which psyllium husks are, and it's pure fiber, then then we know it's sane. So it's sane. Yes, you should use it.
Okay. About gelatin.
Gelatin is sane. Gelatin is pure. It's just protein. So gelatin is a form of protein.
And tapioca flour.
I don't actually know the macros on tapioca flour off the top of my head, but if you were to look at the nutrition label, and if it's mostly fiber or mostly protein, then it's probably a fine choice.
There's like there's like arrowroot flour. There's a few other flours that maybe different like paleo websites will use. And so I just hadn't heard you talk about it. So I usually kind of stick to coconut flour, almond flour, but okay. That's a good
And just watch out I remember that paleo, I mean, in some way there's it's not at all always sane, and that's okay. It's not a criticism, but you can become extremely overweight and diabetic eating paleo. It's very easy to do because honey is natural and it's paleo, and you could wrap your sweet potatoes in bacon and butter, and it's better for you than eating a candy bar. But just because it's natural, tobacco is natural, that doesn't mean it's good to put in your body. So just look at the ratio of starch to fiber and starch to protein when looking at arrowroot and those kind of things to pick the sanest option.
Okay. Now, I think I actually know the answer to this last one because we've covered it a little bit more in the past, but in case we haven't been clear enough, maybe we'll just finish off with this one. Everyone's confused about 2 fistfuls of greens. They don't understand. Is it 2 cups? People are very concerned about measuring their spinach. So from what I understand is as much spinach or kale or these greens we eat, the more the better. It's not about measuring cup by cup, but typically 2 fistfuls for a woman would be a serving for her. 2 fistfuls for a child would be a serving for a child. Am I right?
You are. And here's why, the problem here, I use problem in quotations. It's not a problem. I'm not trying to be critical, but let's say we said it's exactly 2 cups. That still doesn't answer your question, because if it's baby spinach and the leaves are small, more of those leaves will fit into a cup than if it's bigger spinach. And kale, how do you take a giant kale leaf and fit it into a cup? So this idea, but that's not our fault, because what we've been taught is it's exactly this many calories. And if you go over by 7 calories, you'll gain 7 pounds in 7 days. So give yourself permission to say, hey, I ate almost 2 cups or almost 2 fistfuls of vegetables, and that's more than I did yesterday, and I'm going to do more than that tomorrow. So I'm being successful and I'm being sane.
All right. I love it. I think that that's been a great mailbag. Totally appreciate you answering all these questions. Any final next actions that come to mind?
The only next action I would say is to celebrate your successes rather than focusing on your perceived failures. Because
Mm.
one, they're not failures, but this is a great example of that. The fact that you're concerned with the servings of spinach means you're eating more spinach. So that's good. Don't let what you don't know yet hold you back from rocking what you do know. So keep that in mind.
Yay! Inspiring words from Jonathan Bailor. Thank you so much. And thank you for those of you who are with us. We love having you here at the SANE Show. Have a wonderful day and remember to stay sane.